Hey everybody, welcome to Sports Insider. I am Dan Labbe, joined by Bud Shaw. We can't find Chris Fedor. He's gone.
I think he's retired.
Anyway, we do have a packed show for you today. Sometimes I say that and it's not true. Today it is absolutely true because we have 4 guests, and we're going to lead it off talking NBA Finals with Joe Vardon joining us live from California. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Not too much. And Joe, finally, the NBA Finals are here. It's not just that we've been waiting for this since the Cavs beat the Raptors. It feels a lot like we've been waiting for this, really since the Warriors and Cavs walked off the floor last season.
Yeah, it's amazing, how long an NBA season is and how many, trials and tribulations everybody goes through. And so you think about all that for both the Cavs and the Warriors, and all that's really happened is that we're all right back where everyone thought we would be when it started.
So, Joe, when you look at this series, is there one or two things that you think the Cavaliers have to do to win it?
Yeah, I do. I think that Kyrie has to be, in the same ballpark with Steph. I think Kevin needs to find a way to stay on the court, and if he can't, then Ty has to have kind of the intestinal fortitude to take him out. And then, beyond that, they have to, as much as they can, try to stay away from, the isolation stuff and stick to the ball movement and the side to side and the backdoor cutting that has gotten them to this point. And all of that is easier said than done.
Joe, when you look at LeBron James specifically, if he were to lose this series, I think some of the narrative from the national side would be he's 2-5 in the finals. Some of that is unfair because he's led some teams to the finals that frankly haven't belonged there. But is this kind of a legacy type finals for LeBron James, or is that putting too much weight on it?
Yeah, I don't think that it is any more than last year's was. Elgin Baylor lost the most finals. He lost 8. Even if LeBron loses 8, he still has won 2. Elgin, I don't think won any. He's never going to have that problem. And then you look at these consecutive finals. Nobody has done this in any sport in 50 years. To me, I know that winning is the ultimate prize, but the ability to get there, to beat everybody else but maybe one other team for 6 consecutive years on 2 different teams himself is stunning. So, I think if he wins this one, of course it cements his legacy because of what it'll mean to Cleveland. But I still feel like his legacy is already there.
Joe, we keep hearing, usually from Cavs fans, how much better the Cavs are this time around. And it's hard to argue. Are the Warriors a better team than they were last year?
Oh yeah, but they're definitely better, and that's what's so amazing about this is that, like you said, the Cavs really are better, and that they've got this rematch and they're playing against a team who is also a lot better. I think that they the experience that they gained last year makes them better, and then also just obviously this another year in the system, in which they were able to exploit it to 73 wins. We're talking about one of the best teams, record-wise, the best team in regular season history. So, yeah, everybody's better. But I don't feel like this challenge for the Cavs is insurmountable. I feel like it's within reach that they can win this series, but, they certainly, you can't favor them right now.
All right, so Joe, real quickly before you let you go, what was your prediction?
Well, I made fun of myself in my prediction because, I picked the Cavs and I picked the Warriors at different times this year. So what the heck do I know? I'm just, some of the math tells me that it's the Warriors, but I said the Cavs just because, like I said, they are close enough now to where you can see it. And, they beat the Raptors in the last 2 games of the conference finals by 33, an average of 33 points. So they're playing the best basketball in the league. Maybe they can figure out a way to carry that over into this series.
All right, Joe Vardon, he of course is in California covering the Cavaliers and the Warriors. The finals finally starting tonight, 9 o'clock on ABC. Joe, thanks for the time.
Anytime, guys.
You know, Dan, when you look around at what some of the national media people are saying, not just national, but guys out in the Bay Area, I read one today, you know, where a guy picks the Warriors in 5, right?
Yeah.
I just think anybody who pretends to be that convinced is kidding themselves or saying it for effect. Because you can't tell me that this isn't a much better Cleveland team. And I do agree with Joe that the Warriors are also better, even though I thought they lost. Like David Lee, I thought had a really nice series last year that kind of helped turn things around for them. And I think they'll miss a little bit of what he brought. But I can see why Joe's saying that the Warriors are, you know, still favored.
It's going to be a fun series, that's
Absolutely.
for sure. And look, you can never complain when you have a team in your city playing for a championship. All right, let's go ahead and talk some Indians baseball. We bring in our Indians beat reporter, Paul Hoynes. Hoynesy, how are you today?
Hi, guys.
Doing well, Hoynesy. Now let's talk about Marlon Byrd. The Indians signed him. They knew the risk. It came back to bite him. He's gone for 162 games. His career probably over as well. Is there really any surprise to this?
I guess there's a surprise, you know, that he was 3 years removed from his last positive test. But, you know, big picture-wise, a 38-year-old outfielder that, you know, 29 other teams passed on and that the Indians signed with 3 weeks left in spring training, you know, kind of as maybe a desperation move to put some power in their lineup. No, there's not a surprise.
Paul, if Brantley were healthy right now, you'd probably look at this and say, okay, they took the risk knowing what the guy's history was and they can overcome it. With him being not on the roster right now, how big of an issue is this, do you think, losing this guy?
Well, I think it's a pretty big issue, Bud. You know, this guy was hitting .368 against left-handed pitching. He was, you know, he wasn't a starter, but he was, you know, nearly a starter as much as Francona platoons in the outfield. So, you know, he was producing. He had an OPS over almost 750. He was doing his job. He was, he's playing a decent outfield. He was playing obviously younger than his 38 years of age, and now we know why. But, yeah, it's an issue, and it leaves them, you know, a bat short right now. It leaves them, their outfield was already looked like, you know, kind of a pile of scrambled eggs, and now it's even more scrambled.
And what do you think is the reasonable prognosis for a Brantley return at this point?
You know, that's your guess is as good as mine right now. They're saying a couple weeks. He's hitting off a tee, but we've been through this before, and I just think if he's back by the All-Star break, I think that's a good thing. But I would not be surprised if he's not back. I just don't think you can take a chance with this guy now. You've already had him on the DL twice. To go on the DL a third time, you know, to bring him back and then put him on the DL again is madness. That doesn't make any sense.
Hoynesy, you mentioned it leaves this team a bat short now. One of those guys who maybe could step up is the guy that had the walk-off hit yesterday, Yan Gomes. He's been struggling. Now, he has had some moments where he's looked like the old Yan Gomes, and he's had a lot of moments where he doesn't look anything close to it. Can he turn his season around quickly?
I think he could turn it around, Dan. I think, he started wearing the glasses now, kind of athletic glasses at the plate the last couple games. Maybe that'll improve his vision, give him a little more confidence. I don't think he was, it wasn't like he couldn't see the baseball before, but he had problems wearing contacts. So maybe this is just the little bit of a nudge he needs. The thing that worries me is, he's always been, he always strikes out a lot. That's why Francona hits him down at the bottom of the order. You look at his power numbers, when he's going good, and you think, hey, this is a middle of the order hitter. But there's a lot of swing and miss there. And they already got a guy like Napoli hitting fourth, who's kind of the same kind of hitter. And that has increased. That's, that strikeout, Gomes' strikeouts have increased. So, you worry about that. I think he's got to make some more. He's got to concentrate on just controlling the strike zone and making a little more contact.
Paul, Carrasco returns after, I believe, one rehab start.
Yes. Yeah.
So does that mean that he'll be limited pitch-wise and when he does come back?
Yeah, I think so, but he's pitching tonight. They'll come off the DL. I think they'll probably, they'll send, I can't remember the kid. But no, yeah, he's coming back tonight. He's on an 80 pitch count, I think.
Okay.
They'll watch him, depending how long, where he is in the innings, how stressful they are. They'll keep a pretty close watch on him.
Lindsay, I feel like the last week has kind of been a microcosm of the Indians season as a whole. They played that great series against Chicago. They got themselves into first place. Now here we stand. They're back in third place, 2.5 games out. They do have the Royals this weekend. Is there any frustration that this team just can't seem to get going consistently?
Yeah, I think there is, Dan. I think, like you said, this has kind of been, their modus operandi for, the last 2-3 years. They get a couple games above 500, and then they kind of slip back down. I think they've got a better chance this year just because, the division is really, really tight. There's not much separating Kansas City from the Indians. I think they're 2.5 games out. It's a 4-game set right now. Kansas City's banged up. They're without Moustakas, Gordon, Salvador Perez is day-to-day with a quad injury. But they're playing very, very well. They're just coming off a 6-0 homestand. So this is going to be a good test for them. And maybe this is the time they kind of, the Indians kick it in gear and just get where they can get, 5, 6, 7, 10 games above 500 and do some damage.
Paul Hoynes, our Indians beat reporter. Hoynesy, thanks for the time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Hoynesy.
He mentioned Kansas City and how banged up they are. But they're also, I have the standings up right here. They're 8-2 in their last 10. He just talked about the homestand they played. And it does feel, to me, it feels like a missed opportunity for this Indians team because Kansas City's going to get right.
I was going to say they almost look like a team that won the World Series last year, don't they? Yeah, I mean, that's just a really good baseball team that can get runs across in a lot of different ways. And I think that's the only explanation for how they can withstand a Moustakas and Gordon departure.
Yeah, well, they do have an opportunity, of course, as we said, this weekend facing the Royals. Let's go ahead and talk some Browns football now. We bring in our Browns beat reporter, who I just saw a couple hours ago at the team's golf outing, Mary Kay Cabot. Mary Kay, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, Mary Kay. Well, we finally got to hear from Justin Gilbert today, so let's go ahead and start there. The Browns are saying nothing but good things about Gilbert. Clean slate, changing his stance. I think they're hoping he can become a good cornerback for them. Are you buying into what you're hearing?
Well, you know what? I've heard it all before, actually. So, I'm going to hold off for a while and let's see what he can actually do in a game. Because even though I've also heard it all before, I've seen him look good in practices before. But then it doesn't seem to translate out onto the field when you get into an actual live game. So I'm going to hold off saying that I think he's turned a corner until we get to, at least preseason games. And if not, then into regular season and see how he can hold up against, the Antonio Browns of the world.
Mary Kay, it was noted that Robert Griffin III was not named the starter coming out of OTAs. First of all, was there any reason to be surprised by that? And secondly, do you think Hugh Jackson has a schedule for when he would like to come out and make the public announcement?
Well, you know what? The only reason why I thought, it was a question to be asked yesterday is because when we talked to him at the Fan Fest, Hugh Jackson said, well, it would be great if we could do it coming out of OTAs, but if not, we'll do it, blah, 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 whenever the time is right. But, so I thought that it was a question worth asking. So it wasn't huge news, but somewhat significant because I suppose there could have been a case to be made for having him head into that mandatory full squad mini camp next week, knowing that he's the guy, and then leaving and going away for, that 5 or 6 weeks or whatever, with everybody kind of getting behind the starting quarterback. But, maybe he plans to do it coming out of the mini camp. Maybe he'll wait and do it sometime early on in training camp. I'm not really exactly sure what the schedule is he seems to be getting close, but not quite there yet.
Mary Kay, is there any doubt, though, that if he does name a quarterback, especially after minicamp next week, that it would not be Robert Griffin III? Is there any doubt that it wouldn't be him?
I would be surprised if it's not him, but I will say that if you just went by, sheer, absolute 100%, who looks best right now and who looks most ready to start a football game right now, I would say that at this point it still is, in my mind, Josh McCown, just because he just has a tremendous command of his offense. He's got a grasp of his whole entire personnel. He knows the line. He knows their tendencies. They know him. He knows the backs. So there's just a very strong comfort level there with him. But, that's never been in the cards. So if that happens, it's only because they're looking at the film and seeing that they just can't deny the fact that there is a market difference.
We hear a lot of positive things about a lot of players at this time of year. Do you get the sense that any one of those young receivers distinguished themselves so far?
Well, I think Corey Coleman really has. I mean, when you look out there, you can see that he has first-round talent. You can absolutely 100% see it. I've had times before where I've looked out at a number one pick and I didn't see first-round talent. I can see it in Corey Coleman. He does some things, makes some moves, has some athleticism and some speed that, some things that you just can't coach. So, it is there, and I would expect that he'll have a very nice season this year.
Mary Kay, the defense has talked a lot about wanting to be a dominant defense. I'm not really convinced the pieces are there for them to be that yet, but what can this defense be this season?
Well, I think they can be solid and strong fundamentally. I think they're going to tackle better than a lot of the things that you've seen them do, and I think that they will rush the passer much better. So I think that you'll see a very aggressive defense. I mean, we've heard people come in here before and say that they're going to have this attack-minded defense, and then we never really see it. But I think that you will see it. I mean, even when Ray Horton was here in 2013, they finished pretty high up there in sacks. So I think you'll see 40+ sacks again this year, and I think you'll see a lot of guys going forward. And in practice, I'm watching a lot of pass rush drills, and there's plenty of candidates on the team for guys that can do that.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot, our Browns beat reporter. Mary Kay, thanks for the time.
Hey, one more thing real quick, you guys.
Oh.
Gary Barnidge, sports hernia surgery, will be out until sometime during training camp. So Browns, probably best skill player out for a little while, but I don't think it's anything alarming.
Right, glad you brought that up. Thanks, Mary Kay.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Gary Barnidge suspiciously absent yesterday. We didn't get much information, and then today Hugh comes out and informs us that he had hernia surgery.
The thing that strikes me about that defense is that it's probably unfair to judge Ray Horton on 1 year, but boy, did that defense give up a lot of fourth quarter points.
Yeah.
And when you look at the secondary right now, at least the state of the secondary in June, which is not that representative, I get it. You wonder how aggressive they'll be able to be in rushing the passer with those guys back there.
All right, let's go ahead and talk Cavaliers a little bit more. We bring in our Cavaliers beat reporter, Chris Haynes. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing fine, guys. Thanks for having me on this wonderful, excellent show.
Anytime.
Boy,
Chris,
did that sound
of course.
sincere. No kidding.
All right, Chris, look, we know that in this series, the three ball is going to be flying from both sides. It's kind of how the Cavaliers have built themselves since the trade deadline when they went and got Channing Frye. So give me something else that can differentiate one team from the other besides, who makes more threes.
Well, I think the Cavaliers are equipped to go down low and, body and get some points in the paint. Now, I'm not talking about off the dribble penetration. I'm talking about sheer post-up. I think LeBron James and Kevin Love are the two best post-up players, in this series. The Golden State, everything is manufactured off of pick and roll play, playmaking from the elbow spot, and setting up guys for open jumpers. So it's kind of like the strategy what the Cavaliers did last year in the finals, where they tried to muck it up against the Warriors, slow the pace down, lots of post ups. I think that would hold weight if they would try to do that, along with their new implementation of the 3-point ball. I think they would be in trouble if they just tried to clearly just outshoot the Warriors.
Chris, I asked Joe Vardon this. We all know that the Cavs are a better team. Are the Warriors a better team than they were during last year's finals, and why?
I think so. And the reason I say that is because two players, we all knew Draymond Green and Klay Thompson were good, but I think they took an extra step up. I think Klay Thompson is getting a quicker release off this year opposed to last year. He's shooting shots with regularity and consistency without his feet even being set. He's one of the few players in the league where most guys, when they want to gather up their shot, they start from the hip and they work their way up in their shooting rotation. Klay can catch the ball around his chest area and let it fly. And Draymond Green has stepped his level of play up. You know, he's an all-star now, one of the best defensive players we have all this year. So they've improved internally, while the Cavs have improved externally. So I think that's why I would say that both teams have improved on their play since last year.
Chris, we know that Golden State, they love to find mismatches and exploit them, and this is really the first time the Cavs are going to face a team that has the weapons to exploit a Kevin Love on defense or a Kyrie Irving on defense. Are the Cavaliers going to be able to hide one or both of those guys very often in this series defensively?
Well, they can't really hide Kai,
Yeah.
you know, because usually Kai will go off and guard the two guard, you know, when there's a dominant point guard. Well, that's Klay. and Klay will take him in the post, too. You don't forget, Klay has a nice post-up game. The only way that they can hide Kai is if the Warriors start off small. Well, regardless, they don't have to start small at all. I think the only way they hide Kai, and it's not really hiding, but he'll be on probably Iguodala or Harrison Barnes. And then I think they'll go to Harrison Barnes in the post. So they're you know, he's got to step his game up, you know, defensively. They're going to need him if they want to pull this out because I don't really think that they want Kai on Steph or Klay for any long stretches.
Chris, we know you have to go. How about a 10-second prediction?
You know what, guys? Let me go a little bit, 10 seconds. I've been wavering back and forth, you know, since the postseason started. The Cavaliers, man, what they've done, I know the competition wasn't as great as the West, but the way they did it, it really impressed me. I'm going back and forth. I'm wavering, but I'm going to give you the Warriors in 7, opposed to what I thought before the postseason started. I thought it was going to be the Warriors in 5 or 6. I think the Cavs are going to push them to the limit, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win the whole damn thing.
Yeah, and listen, you pick a team in 7. That's essentially a coin flip. So thanks for your time, Chris.
No, anytime, guys.
Bud, what's your prediction? Before you get to your...
I am as conflicted. You'll hear it in this.
All right.
I'm as conflicted as they are. You know?
We'll let you do your thing.
As we know, the Cavs won 2 games in last year's NBA Finals without Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. And we know this because, well, it's mentioned only about every other 5 minutes around here as a way of saying that they will win this time. Actually, maybe we should make that every 3 minutes. I'm afraid it's a little more nuanced than people want to make it, because in order to reap the rewards of Irving and Love on offense, you must expose Irving and Love on defense. The Warriors are the toughest cover in the league, not just because of their talent and their range, locker room in, but also because of the way they share the basketball and the way they keep moving. I agree with our second commenter today who says the Cavs being healthy isn't a total upside. He calls the Warriors a bad matchup. I think the Warriors have more pieces defensively to throw at LeBron, and I mean by that Iguodala and Draymond Green, than the Cavs have to throw at Steph Curry. Dr. Pepper, our last commenter, calls the Cavs a not very nice word defensively. Listen, I won't go that far because I've seen them play better defense in the fourth quarter and in the playoffs than they did during the regular season. In trying to read the confidence meter in Cleveland, I admit to being a little confused. People think the Cavs would have won last year's finals because of Irving and Love, but many didn't want to see the Warriors in the finals to test that out. But Warriors-Cavs is here now, and anything that has lasted 52 years probably won't be easily dismissed. But I do believe the Cavs will overcome, not just because Irving and Love are around this time, but because GM David Griffin has put together a deep and versatile enough roster to cover up the flaws. Cavs in 7, and I say that with all the insight and expertise of a guy who urged the Browns to draft Brandon Whedon and Trent Richardson. Dan?
Picking the Cavs to win a Game 7 on the road. That's
well,
listen, if you mentioned it, if you're going to win a title and end this drought, beating a 73-win team on the road in a Game 7 would be about the way you have to do it.
I normally wouldn't have done that, but in seeing Oklahoma City get out to a 13 or 15-point lead against those guys in Oakland in a Game 7 and only lose that game by 8 or 10, whatever it was, 8 points I think at the end. I think this team handles the ball a lot smarter in big moments than the Thunder do. So I would give the Cavs that opportunity to win on the road in a Game 7.
Well, either way, it's going to be fun. It's going to be long. The series could go 18 days if they get to a Game 7. So get your rest, Cleveland, because you're going to be up late. And hope all your bosses don't mind you falling asleep at your desk, because there might be a lot of that going on as well. Thanks to Mary Kay Cabot, Chris Haynes, Joe Vardon, Paul Hoynes, Bud Shaw. I'm Dan Labbe. Thanks for watching.